All right, so we're going to just wait a couple of more minutes before we get started. I think people are just coming in, and usually it takes a while. Can you guys hear me okay? If you can, shoot me a chat, and so that I can make sure that you can hear me fine. Awesome. Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you can hear me, that's great. And let's just wait about 2 or 3 more minutes, and then we will get started. And so if you guys have any questions as I am talking, I want you to shoot me a message on group chat. And then I'm going to collect them all and answer them at the end. And this will be recorded so that if you have to leave at the end, then that's totally fine. Everything will be recorded and you should be able to see everything. Okay. So it's going to be about 30 to 40 minutes depending on questions, but I will stay on for a complete 1 hour. If you want me to take a look at your responses or essays or whatever it may be, I'm here to take a look at that. So yes, 1 hour. I feel like someone is on audio. Let me see. Please mute yourself if you're just coming on. Chat. All right. Okay, again, I hear some audio noise, so if you can mute yourself, that'd be great. Okay, we're going to get started, and let's see. We have Emily, Sarah, Rachel, Max. All right, let's get started. Okay, so today we are going through the SAT essay workshop, and I'm doing this because someone's camera is on. Okay, I'm doing this because a lot of my students are taking the December test, so I thought I'm going to do a recap of just everything that we've learned so far. And so hopefully you'll find this useful. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Julie, and I am tutoring and teaching and consulting middle and high school students. All right, so like I mentioned earlier, this workshop is not a comprehensive SAT essay course, which means that today we are here to review, okay? So if you've already gone through some SAT essay course, then this could be a good review for you. If not, it'll fill in some holes for you. So that'd be good. All right, so what will you learn in this workshop? You're going to be learning the popular and easy to learn persuasive elements. So I'm not going to go over every single element here, but I'm going to teach you the ones that you should know before you walk into the testing center, and the ones that are pretty easy to learn, right? And the best way to approach analysis section is where students get their points marked off the most. So I want to give you some steps as to how you can tackle this. And then lastly, I have some tips and tricks that will boost your essay grade, even by like 1 point. And that could really save you some time. Okay, if anyone is coming in right now, please mute yourself so that your audio is not distracting us. Thank you. All right, so before we actually get into the strategies, I want to talk about the rubric a little bit. Obviously, you can find this on College Board, so I'm not going to go on and on about it. But I highlighted and underlined the ones that are going to be really important. So for the reading criteria, they really make sure that you understand the main idea of the text, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in the future slides. As for writing, they want you to use high vocabulary words correctly and free of any grammatical errors, okay? And then for analysis, they really want you to focus on the features of the chosen persuasive elements. So if you're talking about statistics, then your analysis needs to answer why using statistics is effective here, nothing else, right? So I see students get carried away and they focus on, like the storyline or the content, and you really want to focus on the actual persuasive element. And I will dive into this as well. So this is just a quick overview, and I highly encourage you to go to the College Board website and print out the rubric so that you know what is expected of them. But these are the ones that I find most helpful, for me at least, and for my students. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about are persuasive elements, and what you need to do for this is understand the effects of each persuasive element, okay? And I'm going to talk about this right now. So here are the ones that I find are really easy. So let's say you've never studied SAT essay and you're like, okay, like what are the ones that I need to memorize for this Saturday's test? I encourage you to look into these. So statistics, repetition, credibility, imagery, collective pronouns, appeal to authority and identity, and diction, okay? And so we're going to go through three of them actually together today. And I'm not going to write down what statistics mean. Okay, you guys already know that. I want you to focus on the effect of the persuasive element, effect of the statistics. And so the effect, one of the effects is it'll surprise the readers when they read whatever the statistic that they just read. It'll shock the readers. And it's hard for them to say no because they are facts and they're not opinions, right? And lastly, you will recognize the reality, like they will recognize the reality. So by using numbers, we can compare and contrast. By looking at numbers, we can identify whether something increased or decreased. And you can't say like, oh, you're wrong about that, right? So these are the effects that audiences get. And I want you to master this instead of just like summarizing the statistics over and over again, okay? The second one is imagery. So what is the effect that audiences get when they do read an imagery sentence? Evokes emotions of something, okay? After they read it, they might feel very happy about it, sad about it, upset about it, distressed about it, so on and so forth, right? And so emotions will come out when an audience reads imagery, okay? So focus on that. And it also reminds the readers of the past that they might have forgotten. So let me give you an example. I personally think Niagara Falls is so beautiful, right? So I've only been there once. So, maybe I forgot about how beautiful it is, how grand it is, etc., right? And for them to write a sentence that really depicts and describes Niagara Falls in detail, it reminds them how beautiful it is, right? So it's a good reminder, okay? And then for those people who've never been to Niagara Falls, they are able to better visualize what the author is trying to explain. right? And so I put a example imagery sentence here, and this is from the April 2017 test. And do you see how descriptive this is, right? And oftentimes students would just kind of summarize how beautiful it is, but you really want to tell the graders, right, that, you know what, when we read this, I'm better able to visualize it. So I'm much more thankful for the nature that we have, right? So that's the effect of the imagery, okay? All right, so the next one we're going to talk about, which is the last one I'm going to talk about for this class, is collective pronouns we, us, our, and us. This will always come out on the test. Maybe like 99%, okay, not 99%, but like 95%, it will come out on the test, okay? And so what does this do? What is the effect of these collective pronouns? Invites the readers to take action together. So the audiences feel more invited. And they also feel more connected to the author because the author is sort of inviting them over to their cause, right? And they feel like they're a group now, right? And so once that bond is made, the audience is more likely to open up to the author and more likely to support the author. Okay, so this one, if there's anything that you can memorize and master by this Saturday, it will be collective pronouns because it will come out. Okay, so the second thing I'm going to talk about today is analysis. And I was talking about it earlier, how this is like the hardest part, right? And so this one, you want to take the perspective of the reader and the audience and not the author. And you might be thinking, are you serious? Like, aren't we supporting the author? Like, why am I taking the stance of the audience, right? And let me show you why that is. Okay, so you're going to be asking yourself these two questions, and like my students who are in here probably know what those two questions are because I say them all the time. And so the first question you want to ask yourself, right, when you start your analysis is when the readers read or hear this piece of information, how will they react? Or how will they respond? Or how will they feel about this? Right? So you are not only focusing on, oh, statistics is really credible, but you're thinking about, okay, when they read the statistics, how are they going to respond to this? Right? Are they going to be shocked? Are they going to be surprised? Like, what's going to happen? Right? And so the key point is for you to focus on emotion, right? We're all moved by emotion. And when we make decisions and when we're persuaded by something, usually comes from emotion, right? So focus on that. And so this is the first question that you should be asking yourself. And let me give you a couple of examples. So for statistics, look at the stat face one, okay? It says the following statistics of college acceptance rates show that getting accepted into Ivy League college is competitive, even with high GPA and SAT scores. What's wrong with this? Some of you guys can send me the messages, like just to test yourself, and I can say, yes, you're right, right? So if you want to respond to the questions that I'm asking, you can just write on the chat box. Like, I'm the only one who can see that, so that's fine. If you change the 2 to Julie, I think. Okay. Okay, so the sad face one, no reaction whatsoever. You're basically just recapping what the statistics said. So why are you recapping that? Why are you restating that again when the evidence already states that, right? So if you take a look at the happy face one, it says, the readers are surprised to see that getting accepted into Ivy League college is so much more competitive than they had expected. The author points out not only a problem, but also the extent of it. So do you see how we focus on the feeling, the emotion, how surprised they are, right? And that's what you want to answer, okay? And so the sad face one, I'm not saying that this analysis is bad, but this is more for like high school English class essay assignments, like, you know, those argumentative essays. For that, it's good, but for SAT essay, not good, okay? So let's take a look at another example here, and here we have imagery. Okay, sad face one. The author explains the beauty of natural darkness using details. In addition, he explains how night skies and meteors decorate and embellish our night sky. Again, restating whatever the imagery was about. And we don't want to know that. And I know that in high school you learn, okay, we have to contextualize our evidence, but in this case, you really don't need to, okay? You're getting your points for doing analysis. You're getting your points for basically analyzing the audience's reactions, okay? So if you take a look at the happy face one, It says, the description of nature and stunningly beautiful imagery creates a feeling of deep respect for the darkness, right? Do you see the reaction, right? Do you see the feeling that they're getting? That's what you want to go for, okay? All right, let's take a look at collective pronouns. And, okay, wait a second. Okay, let's take a look at collective pronouns. And this one, the author, sad face one, the author uses we and our throughout the paragraph to create a sense of unity and teamwork. Not bad, okay, not bad. Let's take a look at the happy face one. The author's usage of we and our unifies the audience and encourages readers to feel impassioned and purposeful to work towards a direct democracy, right? I highlighted the feelings again, the emotions again, right? So that's what you want to get at. And also you want to be specific as possible. So if you look at the sad face one, it says unity and teamwork. It's like, okay, what unity, what teamwork? But you want to focus on the passage's content as well. Okay. All right. So these are the 3 examples that I wanted to share with you. And then I'm going to show you the second question now. So the second question is, now that they reacted in a certain way, why would the readers support the author's argument even more now? Right? So now they feel, maybe whatever they're feeling, like they might be feeling, thankful, sad, distressed, whatever. So because of that feeling, why are they more likely to support the author's argument? Right? And here, the key point is focus on the author's argument. Okay? So where can we find that? It's in this little box, right? So you get 2 pages when you go take the test. And the first one with the article, and the second page is the continuation of the article. If you look way down, there's a little box there, right? And they give you the prompt here, right? So if you do not know the author's argument and you're writing your essay, I'm sorry, but I don't know where that's going to get you. So you definitely want to stay focused, okay, with the author's argument. And the third thing we're going to talk about today is focusing on what is important, and that means utilizing your time wisely. You only have 50 minutes, and you have to read an entire article, plus you have to write an essay. So I'm going to share with you a couple of tips. Okay, so like I mentioned just now, read the author's argument first. Okay, so when you get your test packet, I don't want you to read the article and then read the last box and then read the prompt. I want you to read the prompt and then I want you to go into the article so that you know what you're looking for now. You're not just reading for pleasure. This is not where we just sit back and read an interesting article, right? This is a time test. So do that first. Second, do not read the entire passage. And how ironic is this, right? So do not read the entire passage. And so as soon as you find 1 to 2 pieces of evidence per paragraph, stop reading, okay? So that equates to about 5 to 6 evidences in total, because you already have the evidences. Like, you're not going to use anything else in the passage, right? And time is running out. So stop what you're doing and yeah, you're going to get started on brainstorming right away, okay? Remember, you're skimming the passage for evidence, not reading every single word, okay? Especially for the ones that are not going to be in your essay, right? Okay. Next, spend 5 to 7 minutes brainstorming. So this might sound crazy because most students just jump into the essay altogether, but I always emphasize, if your brainstorming notes are not there, your essay, you don't know where this essay is going to take you, right? So you want to stay grounded, you want to stay focused. And that's why brainstorming notes are so crucial, okay? So here's an example. So paragraph 1, I'm like, okay, I found statistics. I found them in paragraph 4 and 5. So I'm going to get that later, what I'm writing. You don't need to write everything down on here. And then, do you see these 2 bulletin notes? These are going to be the 2 questions that I just asked you earlier. Okay, so the first question, how are they going to react? How are they going to feel? Right? And they're going to feel surprised because they never knew about Ivy League acceptance rates. And do you see that, like, I don't write everything down here? Like, I try to abbreviate it as much as possible, so that, because you don't have time, right? So I did that on purpose, not a typo. So you write that down, and you want to write the because factor as well. So don't just write surprise and then move on to the next question. Write surprise and then write because they probably like never knew about how competitive Ivy League is, like how competitive the process is for Ivy League schools, right? So write that down and do it really, really quickly. I'm not asking you to like make it all organized like this table. And then you're going to move into your second question, which is why are they going to support the author's argument even more now? Okay, and then so it says more likely to support author because, et cetera, and et cetera. Okay, so you have to have these all down before you start writing. Okay, and so there's another one, imagery. So imagery, I only found one evidence, so it's just paragraph 1. And then for paragraph 3, this is, I just put we here, but what I mean by that is the collective pronouns one, right? So I'm not going to write that entire thing, waste of time. And we and our, they come out a lot, right? So then I have a lot of paragraphs here, 3, 5, 6, 10, 11. And for you to know where you can find your evidence, it's going to save you so much time, right? So then you will get some from here, from here, from here, and from here, and then it's all ready to go, okay? And then we're answering question number 1 and 2 here. Okay, feel more included, they're more motivated, they're more driven, and because they feel that way, they're more likely going to support the author's argument because, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that is the brainstorming session right here. Actually, some students take longer. Sorry. Some students, it takes them about up to 10 minutes. And I think that it's really fine. Like if I were in your guys' situation, I would spend 10 minutes brainstorming because that is the piece of something that's going to guide me, right? Because if I didn't have that, I will be lost. So please, 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 I cannot emphasize this enough. Spend a lot of time brainstorming, okay? All right, so in terms of length, okay, thank you. Okay, I think someone was unmuted. Okay, so in terms of length, 2.5 pages. And I'm not talking about like the line paper one. I want you to practice writing out an essay on the actual SAT essay bank, right? They have the line and in a box and everything like that. So 2.5 pages. Okay, so if you are like a type of student where you kind of, I guess, write really small, I guess it will vary a bit. But if you do write, small letters, try to write it a little bit more big, so that it will fill up 2.5 pages. But don't try to like take up all the space with big chunks and big letters. But yes, 2.5 pages is the rule, okay? Longer the better is what I'm trying to say. Okay, next tip, use at least 7 transitional phrases, okay? So here, I've separated them into continuer, contradictors, and cause and effect, okay? So continuer, we have indeed, likewise, that is, similarly, in fact. And I only chose the ones that aren't too common. So I want you to use transitional phrases that most students won't use on their essay, right? So like continuer transitional phrases like also, in addition, try not to use them just because everyone else does and you want something unique in your essay, right? So that's a continuer. We also have contradictors, which are in spite of, on the contrary, rather, otherwise, whereas, okay? And then cause and effect, which is used most often in SAT essay, we have accordingly, as such, as a result, consequently, and thus. And I personally love using as such. I think it's such a smooth transition from one sentence to another without like making it look like you're trying too hard, if you know what I mean, right? So use at least 7 transitional phrases. And let me also share another tip. One of my past students who took the October test, what she did was she wrote down like 4 to 5 transitional phrases that she wanted to use in her essay, like on the top of her essay prompt, like really quickly, right? So she didn't write like everything down like this, but she'll just put like indeed or like a couple of them, so that while she was writing, she was constantly reminded that she had to use these transitional phrases because this will get your writing score up. So you know how there's reading, analysis, and writing? Writing is the easiest to kind of increase, right? Because analysis, I mean, it kind of depends on your reading level, writing level, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of writing section, this is the best way to raise your score. So if you're completely new to this, then I encourage you to try this trick. So I encourage you to memorize a couple of them, and that should be okay. Next, after you're finished writing, so now you've written everything down with transitional phrases, answered all the questions, go back and replace elementary words with higher vocabulary. And what I mean by this, when you're writing, you're doing lots of critical thinking and you're trying to make sure that everything sounds good, everything's on topic, etc. So for you to use high vocabulary word is not going to be your number one priority, right? Let's face it. And so what you can do is memorize a couple of them, and like the transitional phrase one, you can also put this down on the top of your writing rubric or the essay or passage or whatever, and then you can be reminded to use it again. And if you can't do that, I encourage you to leave 1 to 2 minutes at the end of the essay to erase like all the, like the basic words like good, happy, sad, dejected, those kind of words. You can erase them with your eraser and then put these words in here. Okay, do you know what I mean? So that's another way that you can kind of up your writing grade. Okay. So I think these are all good words, like employs, reinforces, illustrates works really well with imagery, right? Communicates works really well with statistics, right? Recognizes, acknowledges, and etc. These are just my favorites, so I mean you can use them or you can find your own, but whatever they are, just have them ready to go on your test date and be motivated to actually use it, right? Okay. All right, so I've kind of covered basically all the the last minute tips. And like I mentioned earlier, for those of you who came a little bit late, this is not a comprehensive SAT essay course. This is just for people to review and just get a little boost and a little reminder before they go in and take the test on Saturday. And so if you wanted to, okay, so if there's one thing that you could take away from this session, so here are the two things, okay? So first, understand the effects of the persuasive elements. Effects, okay? So those are the ones that I talked about earlier. And for the second aspect, focus on the author's argument when responding to the analysis question. If the author's argument is not embedded in your brain when you're writing your analysis section, like I said, your analysis score is not going to be as great as you expected it to be, okay? And so just keep these two thoughts in mind, and kind of when you start the essay section, start close your eyes for a few seconds and remind these two statements to yourself, and then get started on the essay. And I guarantee you that you will get a higher score than, however effort or time you put into it, right? So okay, so now I have a couple of Q&A questions, and these are the questions that I've been asked the most, and I've been doing this for a long time. So let's take a look at the first question, okay? And if you guys have any questions besides this, you can enter the questions on the chat box, and you can just send it to me privately, or you can say after, and I'll be glad to look over your responses or questions or whatever. Okay, so the first question. What if I can only find 2 persuasive elements? Okay. If you can find only 2 persuasive elements, then that's that. Like, you can't find anything else, right? But we still need a long essay, and we still need an essay that has high quality analysis. So in that case, you can try to figure out what are some other reactions that the audiences will get from my persuasive element number 1 and 2? Okay, so that's answering the question that I talked about earlier. So let's say they read a statistics, right? And they feel very surprised. They're very shocked. And then they also recognize how detrimental this is, right? So do you see that there's so many reactions you can get, right? So if you stop at just 1 or 2, your essay is going to be pretty dang short, right? So the more you ask yourself those types of questions, like, dang, how will they really react, right? Like, will they feel upset about this? Then you could lengthen that question number 1 as much as possible. Okay, and do the same for the second persuasive element you found. If you can't find the third persuasive element, don't waste your time trying to look for it, because if you can't find it first round around, you probably can't, right? Because I don't know, everyone comes from different language and literacy levels. So it's a time test. We need to move forward. So just expand the existing persuasive elements that you have, okay? So the second question is, how can I incorporate high vocabulary words? And I just talked about this. And so for you, so when you go in and you open up the test, write down 5 high vocabulary words you are going to implement in your essay. Just write it really quickly on top of your test, and then get started on the entire test process. At the end of the session, at the end of the essay section, what you're going to do is you're going to erase the existing words and then try to replace them with the 5 words that you had in mind. If you can do that while you're writing the essay, that's even better. But if you can't, and you know yourself, right? So if you can't, then that's the best strategy. And so, yeah, that's how you can incorporate those words. Question number 3, if I find 2 pieces of evidence, do I combine them together or create 2 separate paragraphs? So if you find 2 pieces of evidence for, let's say, statistics, actually, let's use something else. If you find 2 pieces of evidence for repetition, and they have the same effect on the readers, then combine them together. If those 2 evidences will have different effect on the readers, then separate them. But what I mean by separate, I don't want you to create 2 different paragraphs. Just within the paragraph, talk about your evidence number 1, and then answer the 2 questions that I talked about, and then put in your evidence number 2, and then talk about the 2 evidences talked about. And this is a great place for you to utilize the transitional phrases, right? So do not make 2 separate paragraphs, because you have 2 pieces of evidence. Combine them all together, and that will be a really lengthy paragraph, but that's fine because you're on topic, right? Because in your topic sentence, you're going to say, I'm going to talk about repetition here. Then you have to talk about repetition there, right? If you're talking about repetition elsewhere, you will lose some writing or analysis scores, okay? So that's one way to go about it. And then for number 4, is SAT essay important? So top 20 colleges and universities in the United States do require SAT essay, and other colleges, they opted out, and they made it optional, basically. However, this is a grade that will go into your application, and you are competing with others. And for you to have a really high essay grade, and for a competitor to have, no essay grade whatsoever because they wanted to play it safe, then, who do you think is going to get the spot? I know that's a little bit extreme, but that is true. You want to let the colleges know that you can read, and that you can write, and you could analyze arguments very well, right? And so that's what you want to go for, okay? And that's why SAT essay is important. And I feel like, especially if you're aiming for top 20 colleges, which includes the Ivy League schools, definitely, it's a must. And so that's what my response is going to be for question number 4, okay? All right, so I've basically answered all the questions that I felt like could be answered. If you guys have any additional questions, I'll stay around here. You can enter your questions on the chat box. I don't want you to enable your speaker or voice or whatever. Just type everything on there, and I will be able to answer your questions separately, okay? All right. And if you have to go and run out and do other stuff, you can go ahead and exit, but I'll stay around here in case you have any questions. And then I'll leave the questions up here, actually. Yep. All right, so Max, can you explain the different parts of the essay? Are you talking about the rubric or the reading, analysis, and writing section? All right, so for the reading and writing section, let's see. I think we'll have to. I think I talked about this. Yeah, I certainly did talk about this in the beginning. I really can't talk about like every single thing here because this is supposed to be a comprehensive review. But if this is what you're looking for, Max, first you read an article, and you know how I mentioned you want to read the prompt first before you read the passage. So you read the article, you read the prompt, and then you read the passage, and then you find out evidences that will support the persuasive elements, right? And then you'll be writing the analysis section. And for that, there are two questions, right? Number one, how will the audiences react when they read this? And then the second one is why would they be more willing to support the author's argument now that they feel a certain way, right? And then, and so that will be a complete body paragraph. Of course, there's introduction and concluding statement, but that is not covered in this lesson. There is a template for it if you want it. So if you stick around, I could send you a template that you can memorize or adapt to your needs for introduction and topic sentences and concluding sentences, okay? So did that answer your question, Max? But I would definitely encourage you to check out how much time, okay. So Tony asks, how much time would I ideally spend on each body paragraph? So that depends on how much time you spend on the brainstorming section, right? So if you spend about 10 minutes on brainstorming and you spend about 5 minutes reading the passage, then you just want to break the remaining time into thirds, right? And then also remember that you have to leave 1 to 2 minutes at the end. So that truly depends on your pace and your preference. But I would say about like 7 to 8 minutes per paragraph. Yeah, that will be ideal, given that you follow my suggestion for reading the prompt first and just kind of skimming through the article instead of reading it all together, and then dedicating that 7 to 8 minutes on brainstorming. So that, yeah, I would say 7 to 8 minutes, and that will be my answer. Okay. All right. Great, Max. I'm glad that I did answer your question. If you want the template, you can shoot me an email, and I'll be glad to send you one. Okay. If you have any private questions, you can send them privately. If you don't want anyone to like read your questions, you can definitely do that. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure what your name is, but it says Hamsong SM. For you, yes, the class is over, but if you have any like sample essays or paragraphs that you want me to check out, then you can send them to me and I could also give you direct feedback. But other than that, if you don't have any specific questions, then class is over. Yep, no problem. For those of you who attended, I will send you a recorded version of this video so you can kind of look at the PowerPoint more closely. I know I just went through like a entire testing section in like 30 minutes, so it could be a little baffling to some people. So I will send you the recorded version to all the people who attended today. Max, do you mean SAT essay workshops, or what type of workshops are you talking about? I'm gonna stop recording because I think these are just personal questions. Okay, got it. Okay, so for SAT and ACT, I am planning to do monthly workshops, and it'll be like different topic each month. And so, yeah, I will be doing them. If you give me, I think you did email me right now, right? So if you shoot me an, so with this email, you will be notified when I do have a workshop. So, yeah, it will be free. Mm-hmm. No problem, Rachel. All right, so I don't think anyone has any specific question. Okay, so Chong Hee Won, do you have a question for me? You raised your hand.